Sonic Racing Crossworlds is a game I was already plenty excited for before it even launched. I saw it as a wonderful casual game to enjoy on nights where I'm too tired from work to play anything super serious. After 12 hours in the open network test, I was confident I liked the game, but getting my hands on the full product has been so much better. Today we're going to be looking at all the things Crossworlds does to bring an incredible entry into the Sonic franchise, and touch on my few criticisms along the way. 2025 has essentially been a year of Sonic for me, personally. Starting a few months ago, I dove headfirst into tackling a wealth of games in the series, new and old. A lot of fun moments, great songs, a lot of critique came with that journey. These games very frequently have their issues, but just strike a certain chord in some people that is irresistible. For instance, I loathe the adventure titles despite their fan favorite status, and on the other hand, I loved Heroes and Sonic Generations. But even with those games, I could easily point out things I didn't like. All this to say, Crossworlds break this mold in a sense. My list of positive notes is quite vast, and my list of criticism is almost non-existent. They may have captured lightning in a bottle with this one in an attempt to reclaim some market share from Nintendo and Mario Kart. Only time will tell if that mission truly succeeded, but Sega absolutely put their best foot forward and right on the accelerator. For starters, I wanted to look at the customization side of things since there's a lot to cover here. Crossworlds has dozens of characters, with many more on the way, multiple different types of vehicles for you to try out, several parts to mix and match within those vehicles, many pages of decals you can mostly adjust and place however you want, gadgets to further express yourself on the track, and even music customization. There is so much power in the player's hands to experience this game how they want. And hell, that's not even accounting for the mods some people have already been hard at work on. Having avenues, especially this many, to express yourself is really important to me in games that I play. And I think they knocked it out of the park here. I don't know what else to say. Looking at the cast, we have a very diverse range of characters, new and old, from the Sonic IP, and even other Sega brands in general. Personally, I don't need anyone besides Blaze and Miku as playable racers, but I'm glad there are so many here. While on the topic of the cast, I feel this is the most appropriate time to address one of the few aforementioned criticisms, the skins, or lack thereof. All the main Sonic racers just have an AI version of themselves as skins, save for Sage and her corrupted version, which is fine. And these just don't do it for me. They lose their voices in exchange for just garbled machine noise. And the majority of the time, it's hard to tell who the racer even is without the little name right beside them, as they all look practically the same. But on top of that, calling them AI versions isn't helping either. That word has irreparably tarnished in modern society, and mentally I just associate it with slop and loss of creative expression. Now, all that being said, I would prefer having these skins over nothing at all, as I know some people really like them. But personally, I'd like to see a lot more here in this category for future updates, even if it's paid DLC. I'd love new outfits for Blaze or Miku, for instance. Thankfully, though, their base outfits are both really solid, so I'm completely fine for now. That's enough about characters, though. Let's talk about your actual vehicle now. This game has 5 or 6 different categories of vehicles for you to pick from, like speed or power, and then a healthy amount of choices in said categories. So all in all, you really do have a nice lot to pick from. But going even beyond that, you can mix and match pieces, as I mentioned previously, from your selected category to get the stats and aesthetic you desire. It's an incredibly simple but effective system that has been in titles before this one. Nonetheless, it's something I still really like and never really feel limited in my options when designing a new car or gear. But perhaps much more important than the parts, the trim, and the color of your car, we have the gadgets. These are where you really make the game your own, with a massive pool of options to increase your stats, drifting, maneuverability, items, and more. Gadgets are one of the standout features in this game, and I love them. This isn't just a matter of finding one set you're comfortable with and sticking to it, by the way. I'm changing out constantly based on what game mode I'm playing and my overall mood. In general, I like to stick to my drift bonuses though, as that is one of my favorite parts of the race themselves. While we're on the subject, let's go ahead and talk about those drifts as they are a key part to racing games. They feel incredible here. Even after 50 hours of playtime, hitting a turn just right is still satisfying. You have a lot of control over your vehicle, unless you're playing with the lowest handling possible. That being said, you will need to learn when to release the accelerator though. The consistent improvement of learning turns in this game is just amazing, and I really appreciate that they didn't shy away from super large drifting segments like in Roulette Road. Going back to the gadgets though, it's yet another part of this game where players can enjoy the game how they wish, with no real correct choice. It's beautiful. But can you believe we're still not done with customization? Because now we can talk about a key factor in any Sonic game, the music. And oh man, they did a good job bringing out bangers new and old. Despite that though, there will always be some room for improvement in this category. There are far too many good Sonic tracks to fit them all in one game for one reason or another. Particularly, missing out on Crush 40 tracks or those Sonic R tracks that were data mined. Would really like to see either or both of those in the future. But realistically, we will need to look to mods for that. Know what I'm made of or work it out is a little sad, even if the tracks we have are really good, you know? It's better to appreciate what we have instead of lamenting what we're missing. And that's not difficult to do here. Particularly, I've been enjoying the Frontiers tracks most, between Flowing, its remixes, and the Kellen Quinn metal tracks. But it most definitely doesn't stop there. We've got Seven Rings in Hand, Studiopolis, Stardust Speedway, the good version, Seaside Hill, and more. I would have liked to see more Heroes tracks as well, but it's okay. Also, being able to pick out your favorites and stuff them into one mega playlist that you can use on any lap or the whole race is an amazing feature that I would really like to see in other genres, even if that doesn't, mesh super well with other games. I still think it's such a great feature. I'd really like to see it. But we gotta try it, right? And last note on the music, I really like how whenever you're approaching a Crossworld ring, you can hear the current song fading out and the next song fading in. That is an awesome touch that was by no means necessary. Good stuff, Sega. And I suppose that is a pretty natural lead-in to the titular mechanic of this game, the Crossworlds, with lap 1 being a standard lap on the selected track, lap 2 being in a completely different Crossworld track, and lap 3 coming back to the first track, but with some variations, usually shortcuts. This is an awesome feature that heavily combats track fatigue you might otherwise experience, with no 2 laps and much less 2 races ever being the same. Everything feels exciting for many more hours to come. And that feeling of finally noticing that shortcut on the lap 3 variant and just having this, oh, that's where it is moment is just something to treasure. I never get tired of it. I think they did a really great job implementing this very unique feature, and I'm glad to see it. I'd struggle to go back to a traditional 3-lap system after enjoying this one. Though I don't really play racing games outside of this, minus, I guess, Riders earlier this year. But I wouldn't really say any of the tracks are bad. The least pleasant ones absolutely go to Magma Planet and Kraken Bay for me. Ugh. Like, I'll race on them, sure, but I'm never happy about it. It's just like, let's get to lap 3 already. Looking to favorites, though, I'd really struggle to pick some with just how many solid tracks there are here. Off the top of my head, I'll say Pumpkin Mansion, Ocean View, and Colorful Mall are all pretty exceptional, even if my girlfriend laughs at me every time I fall off the bridge at the mansion, but oh well. Now let's look at how this fares against Mario Kart, in terms of items, that is. The majority of your choices here aren't anything too wild or unique, but I don't want to imply that the item play is bad. Far from it. There are a lot of attack items, but there's also a fair amount of defensive items to balance it out. The speed up items range from a standard boost to bringing out your inner Asgore and Bergen trucking your way over the competition. While no singular item blows me away, I think the items are in a nice healthy spot here. While I'm in the lead, I will sometimes be struck down to balance things out, and other times I will have a defensive item to maintain said lead. There's no guarantee either way, and I really do think that's a good thing. If first place was just always secured by a defensive item, it'd be very frustrating to catch up and just lead certain attack items like the Boom Boo to just feel useless. But on the other hand, if first place never really felt safe, then there'd be no real point going for it outside of the last few seconds of the race. So striking a balance in between is really important for long-term enjoyment, and I think Crossworlds accomplishes that just fine. There's fun to be had, shortcuts to be taken, power items to enjoy, and defensive items to protect yourself. It's not mind-blowing, nor the most innovative set of items ever, but I'm really not asking it for it to be. And that about wraps it up for items, your vehicle, your character. I think I can finally address something else very important to this game's success: the content. One of the multitude of features that might keep me away from a game like this is a lack of single-player content. Online races are all well and good, but they are not actually my preferred way to spend time in this game. I much prefer testing myself in the single-player modes, and there's no shortage to enjoy here. Grand Prix at both normal speed and supersonic speed, time trials with the same, and Race Park. Customizing more vehicles, editing decals, purchasing items at the Friendship Shop. All things I can easily sink my time into instead of racing online, and once again, I really appreciate that. This game's great, but if my only options when I boot it up were just to race online, I probably would have just skipped it. And I guess that's a pretty natural time to talk about the most difficult thing in this game, those time trials. Now, getting your A ranks to unlock the music wasn't too bad. It really wasn't. But the S ranks? Wow, they were not playing around here. These can range from not too bad with the right setup to just back-breakingly difficult. And I'm all here for it. Don't get it twisted. As of writing this, I only have a couple of S ranks, but I do intend to get all of them at some point, and that seems like a Herculean task. But hey, that's what I wanted. Enough single-player content to keep me entertained. I'm really glad we can straight up watch the replays and see the equipment for the best times, too. If I don't feel like learning the correct setup myself, it's really just quick and easy to copy someone else's and just work on my execution. The Grand Prix and Race Park were interesting too, but my heart belongs to time trial, so I think I'm ready to move on. So, I've glazed the single-player experience. How's the multiplayer? Simple but effective is the quickest answer I could give. The bulk of the experience is just competing in 3-lap races and being awarded and stripped of some ranked points after the fact. This is a fine system and about what I'd expect here. I'm not asking them to revolutionize the way we are assessed or how races are match-made. A minor pain point I do have for the multiplayer comes in the form of the temporary festival events. Now, these are functionally just a way to race and get some cool new rewards. However, the time frame is very small, just the weekends. And on top of that, it also replaces the base multiplayer experience instead of adding to it, which I'm sure bothers some people, and, myself included sometimes. But at the same time, I get it. They want the matchmaking to always be quick, and minimizing the amount of queues is certainly one way to do that. That's not my main issue, though. For me, it's the timing I mentioned. I work on the weekends, so I will always be partaking in these festivals after a long day, and it makes it a bit more difficult to enjoy. Though, admittedly, this is certainly a personal problem, and I recognize that. If you're going to make them time limited only, the weekend is the best time slot for most people. And I just don't happen to be most people. What can you do? Overall, I am glad Sega is putting some real effort into updates for this game, though. With festivals, future maps and characters, and hopefully more music and skins, the future is bright for Crossworlds. People seem to really enjoy it, and Sega is doing their best to keep players queuing up. So best of luck to them. I'd love to see Sonic become the face of kart racing instead of Mario, to be honest. I should have brought this up during the single player portion of this script, but I really don't feel like going back and squeezing it in now. So we're just going to talk about it. The lack of story, and instead being replaced with rival interactions. Now, I didn't play Team Sonic Racing, but I have heard and seen in a lot of videos, it's subpar, putting it nicely, story mode. And thankfully, Crossworlds doesn't even try to make that half-baked attempt. No. Instead, they let the writing department have fun with hundreds of character interactions. At the start of Grand Prix, you can hear your rival character and the one you picked exchange dialogue. And all the Sonic characters have unique lines for the other Sonic characters. It's awesome. Characters you would never expect to interact, or who perhaps just haven't interacted in a long-ass time, now come back in full force with funny lines that do a great job of staying in character. Both with the lines themselves and the voice actors, I mean. It's easy for me to criticize the modern cast, since I do prefer the 4Kids, as I grew up with a lot of Sonic X. But I'd be lying if I said they didn't do a great job here. Made me appreciate them a lot more, to be honest. Especially Big. He's funny as hell here. It might not be everyone's cup of tea, but I am happy with this over a lukewarm story mode. That most likely, would have been Even Riders, which had some really fun cutscenes, especially for the time, barely had a story. Hey, Eggman is scamming the emeralds out of the racers, and also the birds are from Babylon. I mean, that's basically the whole plot, right? No hate to Riders, though. That game is fun, too. And I love the cutscene where Wave just flames the fuck out of Tails and his gear. That one gets me every time. I love Wave. Whew. Now, that was a hell of a lot of positives in a row. But there is one minor negative that I find myself rolling my eyes at. The menuing. This is probably another personal issue, but between waiting for the results to show up at the end of an online race, or navigating the UI in some areas of the game, it can just feel painfully slow. I'm at least thankful that this is not an omnipresent issue. But when it does come up, it's frustrating. I'm here to race, not wait for a menu to load so I can press OK. I think I'm just impatient, though. And for the last major talking point I have for you today, let's look at snaking, as it is relevant here. With the right gadget setup, snaking can be a very potent tactic to get and maintain speed. However, it's also a very intensive way to race, offering little downtime if trying to be fully efficient. It's a little too early for me to say if it's the best way to race in this game, but it's certainly a strong one. Personally, while I do snake on straightaways now and then, I mostly just use it as a way to get my speed back after getting slammed by an item or run over. So at the moment anyway, I really don't think it's some blight that will drag the game down, but it is something to be aware of if you are into it or heavily against it. You can certainly race just fine without it though. There's all types of builds. It might be required to S rank a few time trials. I will say that. But I mean, I can't speak on that yet either. I haven't S ranked every track, so that's a journey I'm still working on. And I think that about does it for Crossworlds. The intense customization, the enjoyable characters and their funny interactions, the content for single player and multiplayer, the tracks and their amazing music. I have a lot of love for this game, and since its release, I've played every single day. As of writing, I just beat all the rivals and unlocked the vocal theme on the main menu. That was such a cool thing to add in. I'd recommend this game to anyone who is remotely interested and can afford it. Sega crushed it here, and I'm looking forward to what comes next. But that's all for this video. If you enjoyed listening, please consider hitting those funny little buttons down there as I continue to make games, or videos rather, on the games I enjoy. Thanks for watching, and take care.